mother was actually the first powerful optimist in our lives. She was a resilient and resourceful optimist, and she was the kind of mother that could make an art studio out of a kitchen floor. She could make lunch for 3 boys out of a block of brown sugar, which she did one day. We were like out in the playground, like 2 hours later, my brother Alan said, did we have sugar for lunch? I think we did. But Joan would not just tell us stories at night. She would like kneel down next to that bunk bed, and she would become the queen or the wolf or the pirate and like really act out these stories. And she truly unlocked our imagination. And I don't know if there could be a better gift for young kids. And maybe the most powerful thing Joan ever did for us is every night at the dinner table, she'd look around at her kids and simply say, tell me something good that happened today. And as simple as that sounds, it really changed the energy in the room. Because we may have had a day where our dad was yelling a lot, or one of my older brothers was in some trouble, or it was a chaotic house. But she got everyone zoomed in quickly. And if you share one highlight, it kind of brings momentum to a conversation. She did that for us throughout our childhood. And it's something we actually apply to Life is Good and work all the time. Because if you start meetings asking people what's going wrong, believe me, they'll tell you, and there goes the momentum right out of the meeting. On the other hand, if you ask just for one highlight, something that's a positive note about their department, anything about the company, it really can get the momentum rolling, and then anything is possible. We found that to really hold true in our business lives. When Bert and I were finishing up college, we were looking for ways to combine art and business. And that was our dream. Is there some way we could make a living by creating art? And we saw T-shirts as an accessible way to do that. So we got out on the streets of Boston after designing and printing up some shirts and just hawking in high foot traffic areas, and didn't have much success there. We bought this used van, and we called the van the Enterprise. We told each other we were going to boldly go where no T-shirt guys had ever gone before. And we started driving up and down the East Coast on these long road trips all the way to Virginia and back up through Maine, stopping at every college we could and selling door-to-door in college dormitories. And we tried all different kinds of blank shirts, graphics, messages, and we asked a lot of questions, but we were stumbling along and weren't finding much success. But the bottom line is, if we look back at those 5 years, we didn't know really what we were doing or where we were going, but we believed in each other and we were open to the adventure. After a particularly long, bad road trip in terms of sales, we got home and we threw a keg party at our house, or our little apartment, I should say, outside of Boston. And this was one of the drawings that were up on the wall. Now, our tradition, no matter how the trip went, if we were on the road for a while, was to call our friends and say, let's meet up, and we'd love to catch up on what you guys have been up to. And we'd have a keg party. And we would just tape a bunch of drawings to the walls of this one room there. And we'd ask people to comment on what they liked or didn't like. And this one drawing had so many comments around it, it was just falling off the wall. And in the morning when we woke up, we saw this one comment in particular said, "This guy's got life figured out." And we were like, that's so simple, but we ended up distilling that comment, and I guess the others as well, down to these 3 simple words. And these 3 simple words changed our lives forever. We decided we wanted to put this graphic on a shirt, and we had a street fair in a few days, so we printed up some shirts, and we took them to this little fair outside of Boston. And this is the first day ever selling Life is Good. And we were used to selling about a dozen shirts in a whole day, and maybe buying a beer for friends that helped us at the fair. This was totally different. We set up at about 11 o'clock, and in less than an hour, we sold through the 48 Life is Good shirts we had printed. And we couldn't believe it. It was among the 20 other graphics we usually sell. And what was astounding was all kinds of people. It was a big Harley guy. It was a school teacher. It was a young skateboarder. They were all wandering around, and then they hone in on that one pile, and it kind of confirmed what we had hoped, that people actually want to focus on something positive and celebrate no matter what's going on in the world. And so it was like exciting and scary at the same time. Like we finally had something that people wanted, and now we had to figure out what to do with it. We had no idea on that front. So we decided to go back to what we knew, which was door-to-door sales. And instead of the dorms, we would go to some little t-shirt shops. We didn't understand how retail worked, but let's just start asking people. So if you live in Boston and you need the answers, you drive down to Cape Cod and you jump in the ocean. And you say, Mother Ocean, give us the answer. And we drove around the Cape at all these little beach t-shirt shops. And we found one finally, after many no's, we found one woman who was willing to take some Life is Good shirts. And super sweet. We went back to Boston, and in like a week or so, we heard back from her. They're selling really well, and this was news to us. We've never heard the word reorder in our lives. This was very exciting. The same thing I gave you before, you want again? This is unbelievable. So we refilled the order. We were very ecstatic, but she was our only account at this point. And 2 weeks later, we got a phone call from Nancy, was her name, and she said, hey, we're still selling those Life is Good shirts really fast. We happen to be really close, if you remember, to an ice cream shop. Does the character Jake guy, does he eat ice cream? And we were like, Bert and I are like in this little dive with our drawing tables. We're like, no, but if you give us like 2 hours and a purchase order, he will. So we rapidly created Jake eating ice cream. Again, it's not about being brilliant, it's about being open. And give it another 2 weeks, and Nancy's sister-in-law calls from Vermont and says, we have a shop in Vermont, and there's a bicycle path near us. Does Jake ride a mountain bike? This time, didn't take us quite as long. We were like, yeah, and he will if you pay in advance. So Jake learned to ride a mountain bike. So this is like the recurring theme you'll hear throughout our story. It really isn't about always having the answers. It's about staying open and listening. And pretty soon we realized we have a pretty cool job. What we need to do is just listen to what people love to do and then help them celebrate that. And whether people love to hike or hang out with their dog or do yoga or play guitar, we could celebrate all those things. And as long as we kept listening, the business started to grow under our feet. And meanwhile, something far more significant was happening that we definitely didn't predict. So we got letters from people saying, hey, I love the mountains, and so I really appreciate your graphics. I love this shirt. I got it for my brother or whatever. But we also started getting letters from people going through great adversity, and they were finding inspiration in these simple products we were making. And we couldn't have predicted that, but I want to read you one of our favorites. This is a letter from a couple young boys. It's very short, but powerful. Dear Bert and John, my name is Alex. I have a brother, Nick, and we are 10. We both have extra challenges in the world, but at the end of the day, we still have each other. We were both born early and weighed a pound, so we had a lot of growing to do. When I was born, I had my leg amputated. Nick is blind. Me and Nick have all your shirts with the things we like doing best, but if you ask us what we do best and what makes us happy and laugh most, it's just being together. I know now that Nick has more challenges than I do, but he says and does things that make me laugh and forget feeling bad. I don't know how to describe it other than I love him. You're lucky to have a brother too. I hope you do fun things together. Your friends, Alex and Nick. So 10 years old, there's a lot of wisdom in those simple words. And we got hundreds and eventually thousands of letters along these lines. And one of the messages that came through loud and clear that we've really taken to heart, and they become central to our brand, is this message of get to. And one letter in particular pointed out that he no longer says, a house painter that has his ups and downs like all of us, but he never uses the phrase have to anymore. He realizes that if he has to go to the grocery store, he gets to go to the grocery store because we live in a land of abundance. And we use it at work all the time. Instead of saying, I have to go to a meeting, I have to work late, we get to do those things because we have jobs. We get to pay the bills because we have a roof over our head. It's just one little word shift, but it takes us from this common stance of like burden and even like martyrdom sometimes as human beings, and shifts it to this rock solid foundation of gratitude, which we really believe in. And this phrase has been huge for us. Anyone who thinks they're going to grow a business on their own these days isn't really paying attention. It has become all about collaboration, connection, partnership, and also transparency. Transparency is key right now, and no longer can any brand put up a billboard of what they want the world to think they are and really be something different behind the scenes, because consumers are smarter, they have the info, and they will call brands out and take them down so fast. And that's a good thing for business and the world. And on the flip side of that, if your aim is true, if your mission is real, if you're actually trying to do something good in the world, people will actually overlook your mistakes. And our customers do it all the time. They call out things we're doing wrong, but they help us build the business together. And that is based on them believing and knowing that the mission is authentic.